You know that feeling when you see someone who used to light up your screen every single week, and suddenly you realize years have passed and everything has changed? Well, buckle up, because what happened to Kaley Cuoco, the woman we all knew and loved as Penny from The Big Bang Theory, is going to hit you right in the heart. This isn't just another celebrity update. This is a story about dreams, heartbreak, resilience, and the brutal reality that sometimes the hardest battles happen after the cameras stop rolling. So before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you're going to want to stay updated on stories like this one. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see Kaley Cuoco in a completely different light. For 12 years, Kaley Cuoco was America's sweetheart. Every Thursday night, millions of people tuned in to watch her play Penny, the beautiful, struggling actress who lived across the hall from a group of brilliant but socially awkward scientists. She brought warmth, humor, and relatability to a show that became a cultural phenomenon. The Big Bang Theory wasn't just a sitcom. It was a ritual, a comfort, a part of people's lives. And Penny wasn't just a character. She was a heart of the show, the bridge between two worlds, the girl next door who made us laugh and sometimes made us cry. Kaley Cuoco embodied that role so perfectly that it's almost impossible to separate the actress from the character. But here's what most people don't realize. While we were watching Penny's life unfold on screen, Kaley's real life was unfolding behind the scenes in ways that were far more complicated, far more painful, and far more heartbreaking than anything her character ever experienced. Let's rewind for a moment. Before The Big Bang Theory, Kaley Cuoco was already working her way through Hollywood. She started acting when she was just a child, appearing in commercials and small television roles. Her breakout came with the sitcom 8 Simple Rules, where she played Bridget Hennessy, the popular and sometimes ditzy teenage daughter. The show was going strong until tragedy struck when John Ritter, who played the family patriarch, suddenly passed away during production. Kaley was only 17 years old when she experienced this devastating loss. It was her first real taste of how cruel the entertainment industry could be, how quickly everything you know can be ripped away. But she kept going. She kept working. And then came the audition that would change her life forever. When Kaley auditioned for The Big Bang Theory in 2007, she had no idea she was stepping into a role that would define her career. The show's creators, Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady, were looking for someone who could play the every girl. Someone beautiful but not intimidating. Someone funny but genuine. Kaley nailed it. But here's something most fans don't know. Chuck Lorre himself has admitted that Penny was a cliched character at first. She was a typical beautiful blonde waitress with dreams of becoming an actress. It took time to figure out who Penny really was, and a lot of that development happened because of Kaley herself. She brought depth to a character that could have easily been one-dimensional. She made Penny real. She made her someone we cared about. And for 12 seasons, from 2007 to 2019, Kaley Cuoco lived and breathed that character. But let's talk about what that success really meant. By the end of The Big Bang Theory, Kaley Cuoco was earning $1 million per episode. Let that sink in for a second. $1 million. For just one episode. Over the course of the show's run, she earned an estimated $150 million in base salary alone, not even counting the tens of millions she continues to make in residuals every single year. She became one of the highest-paid actresses in television history. On paper, her life looked perfect. She had fame, she had money, she had millions of adoring fans. But money doesn't protect you from pain. Fame doesn't shield you from heartbreak. And success doesn't guarantee happiness. While The Big Bang Theory was at its peak, Kaley's personal life was a whirlwind of highs and lows that would have broken most people. In 2013, after dating for just 3 months, Kaley married professional tennis player Ryan Sweeting. 3 months. That's barely enough time to really know someone. But Kaley dove in headfirst. She was in love, or at least she thought she was. She later admitted that she knew on their first date that she was going to marry him. She got a tattoo of their wedding date on her back. She talked about him in interviews with stars in her eyes. She truly believed this was it. This was her happily ever after. But the fairy tale didn't last long. Within a year, cracks started to show. Ryan Sweeting was dealing with personal demons that Kaley couldn't have anticipated. He was struggling with addiction, with injuries that ended his tennis career, with depression. And Kaley, despite all her success and all her resources, couldn't fix it. She couldn't save him, and she couldn't save their marriage. After just 21 months, Kaley filed for divorce. She later said in interviews that her ex-husband completely changed, that he ruined the word marriage for her, that she honestly thought she would never get married again. Can you imagine the pain of that? To believe you found your person, to commit your whole heart, only to watch everything crumble in less than 2 years? And remember, this was all happening while she was filming The Big Bang Theory, while she was expected to show up on set every day with a smile on her face and make millions of people laugh. The show must go on, right? That's the brutal reality of Hollywood. Your personal life could be falling apart, but the cameras keep rolling and you keep performing. But Kaley is nothing if not resilient. She picked up the pieces and threw herself into her work and her other passion, horseback riding. Horses had always been Kaley's escape, her therapy, her way of finding peace away from the chaos of Hollywood. She's an accomplished equestrian, having competed in shows since she was a teenager. But in 2010, that passion almost cost her everything. Right before season 4 of The Big Bang Theory was set to start filming, Kaley had a horrific accident. She was riding when she fell off her horse, and before she could get out of the way, the horse stepped directly on her left leg. The injury was catastrophic. Her leg was so severely damaged that doctors actually considered amputation. Amputation. Can you imagine being a young actress at the height of your career and being told you might lose your leg? Kaley had to undergo emergency surgery. Metal plates and screws were inserted into her leg to hold it together. She missed filming 2 episodes of the show. To this day, she has massive scars running down her leg. Scars that she's learned to embrace as reminders of what she survived. She calls them badass. But the physical scars are just the visible part. The trauma of that experience, the fear, the pain, the long recovery, those scars run much deeper. Despite everything she'd been through, Kaley decided to try love again. In 2016, she met Karl Cook, a professional equestrian. Finally, someone who understood her passion for horses, someone who seemed to be on the same wavelength. They got engaged on her birthday in 2017 and married in 2018 in a beautiful ceremony at a horse stable in San Diego. Everything seemed perfect. They shared a love of animals. They both had successful careers. They seemed genuinely happy. But here's where things get even more heartbreaking. Even though they were married, Kaley and Karl didn't live together full-time. They maintained separate homes. Some people thought it was unconventional, but Kaley defended it, saying it worked for them, that they had a very unconventional marriage that suited their lifestyle. But looking back, maybe that physical distance was a symptom of a deeper emotional distance that was growing between them. In September 2021, just 3 years after getting married, Kaley and Karl announced their separation. The statement they released was careful and kind, talking about deep love and respect for one another, but acknowledging that their paths had taken them in opposite directions. The divorce was finalized in June of 2022. And this time, the heartbreak hit Kaley even harder. She later admitted that she went through a super dark time after divorce. She said she threw herself into work to deny her depression. She actually organized what she called an intervention for herself, calling friends to her house and admitting she was struggling and needed help. Think about how difficult that must have been for someone who had spent years being seen as a fun, happy-go-lucky girl. To admit vulnerability, to admit you're not okay, that takes incredible courage. But it also reveals just how much pain she was carrying. Now, here's where the story takes another turn, one that makes everything even more complicated. Just a few months after her divorce from Karl Cook was finalized, Kaley went public with a new relationship. In May of 2022, she confirmed she was dating actor Tom Pelphrey, best known for his roles in shows like Ozark. The relationship moved fast, very fast. By October, they announced they were expecting a baby together. And in March of 2023, Kaley gave birth to their daughter, Matilda Carmine Ritchie Pelphrey. Then in August of 2024, Kaley and Tom got engaged. On the surface, this looks like a happy ending, right? New love, new baby, new chapter. But remember, just 2 years earlier, Kaley had sworn she would never get married again. She said it publicly, emphatically, absolutely not. Those were her words. And yet here she is, engaged again, planning another wedding. Some people might see this as hope, as proof that love can find you when you least expect it. But others might wonder if maybe Kaley is rushing again, repeating patterns, searching for something that keeps slipping through her fingers. Let's talk about her career post-Big Bang Theory, because this is where things get truly heartbreaking from a professional standpoint. When the Big Bang Theory ended in 2019, Kaley had the world at her feet. She had money, she had fame, she had connections. She started her own production company called Yes Norman Productions, named after her beloved rescue pit bull who passed away. She was determined to prove that she was more than just Penny, that she could carry projects on her own, that she had range and depth as an actress. And to her credit, she worked incredibly hard to make that happen. Her first major post-Big Bang project was The Flight Attendant, a dark comedy thriller that premiered on HBO Max in November of 2020. Kaley didn't just star in it. She executive produced it through her company. She played Cassie Bowden, an alcoholic flight attendant who wakes up next to a dead body with no memory of what happened. It was a departure from anything she'd done before, darker, more complex, more dramatic, and the response was incredible. The show was a hit. Kaley received critical acclaim and earned her first Emmy nomination for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. She also received Golden Globe and Screen Actors Guild nominations. Finally, it seemed like she was getting the recognition she deserved, proof that she could carry a show on her own, that she was a serious actress capable of serious work. The Flight Attendant was renewed for a second season, which aired in the spring of 2022. But then came the devastating news. In January 2024, HBO Max announced that the show would not be returning for a third season. It was canceled. Over. Done. Kaley released a statement saying that playing Cassie had been a dream come true, but the reality is that the cancellation was a huge blow. This was her baby, her passion project, the thing that was supposed to prove she could succeed beyond the Big Bang Theory. And just like that, it was gone. But wait, it gets worse. Kaley had also been working on other projects. She launched an animated series called Harley Quinn in 2019, where she voices the iconic DC Comics character. The show has been successful and is still ongoing, but let's be real. Voice acting, while important and lucrative, doesn't have the same cultural impact or visibility as live-action roles. People know the character, but they don't see Kaley's face, they don't connect with her in the same visceral way they did with Penny. She also starred in a series called Based on a True Story, a dark comedy thriller that premiered on Peacock in June of 2023. The show was about a couple who capitalized on America's obsession with true crime by teaming up with a serial killer. Interesting premise, right? The show was renewed for a second season, which premiered in November of 2024. But then in April of 2025, Peacock canceled the series after just 2 seasons. Another cancellation. Another project cut short. Another dream that didn't quite pan out the way she hoped. Kaley has also appeared in films like Role Play, a romantic comedy thriller that premiered on Prime Video in 2024, but it came and went without making much of a splash. She's attached to other projects, including a thriller series for Amazon called Vanished that began filming in 2025, but nothing has captured the zeitgeist the way the Big Bang Theory did. And maybe nothing ever will. That's the curse of being part of something so massive, so beloved, so culturally significant. Everything else feels smaller by comparison. Every new project is measured against that impossible standard. And when you're Kaley Cuoco, when you were Penny for 12 years, that shadow is long and dark and inescapable. Here's what makes this all so heartbreaking. Kaley has been incredibly open about how much she's struggling to balance everything. In recent interviews, both she and Tom Pelphrey have talked about how difficult it is to juggle parenthood with their acting careers. They've admitted they're finding it a little hard to manage their career trajectories now that they have a young daughter. Tom even said there's one aspect of parenting that he has no power over, referring to their daughter's stubborn streak. They're both working, both trying to maintain their careers, both trying to be present parents, and both admitting that it's overwhelming. That's the reality that nobody talks about when they talk about having it all. You can have money and fame and a beautiful family, but you can still feel like you're drowning. You can still feel like nothing is quite enough, like you're always falling short somewhere. And then there's the question that hangs over everything. Is Kaley okay? Is she truly happy, or is she just doing what she's always done, putting on a brave face, pushing through, performing for the world even when she's falling apart inside? She's been divorced twice. She's lost projects she poured her heart into. She's dealt with a life-threatening injury. She's battled depression. She's admitted to struggling with nose spray addiction, a bizarre but telling detail about how even the smallest things can spiral out of control when you're under immense pressure. She's opened up about post-divorce depression, so severe that she needed an intervention. These are not the stories of someone who has it all figured out. These are the stories of someone who is fighting every single day to hold it together. Let's talk about the animal rescue work, because this is genuinely one of the most beautiful parts of Kaley's story. In October 2024, she launched a pet care brand called Oh Norman, named after that same beloved pit bull that inspired her production company. The brand is focused on creating guilt-free pet parenting, offering products that help animals and their owners live happier, healthier lives. But here's what makes it so meaningful. A portion of every sale goes to animal rescue organizations. Kaley is using her platform and her resources to give back to the animals that have given her so much comfort and joy over the years. She has a ranch where she rescues horses, dogs, and other animals. She's constantly advocating for adoption, for pit bull awareness, for treating animals with the love and respect they deserve. In a world where so much of her life has been about performing, about being judged, about chasing success, her work with animals is pure. It's genuine. It's the thing she does not for applause or awards, but because it matters to her soul. But even that has a bittersweet edge to it. Norman, the dog who meant so much to her, passed away. He was her companion through some of the darkest times of her life. When you lose a pet that's been with you through heartbreak and loss, it's like losing a piece of your own heart. And while Kaley honors his memory through her brand and her continued rescue work, you can feel the grief underneath it all. She's someone who loves deeply, whether it's people or animals, and that means she also hurts deeply when those she loves are gone. There's also been speculation about whether Kaley might return to the Big Bang Theory universe. Chuck Lorre and the team have been expanding the franchise with spin-offs. There's been talk about a potential project that could bring back beloved characters. And Kaley has said publicly that she would absolutely reprise her role as Penny, that the Big Bang Theory was some of the best years of her life. Part of you hears that and thinks, oh, how wonderful, nostalgia, a reunion, a chance to see Penny again. But another part of you wonders if maybe this is also a sign of how hard it's been to move on. When you keep talking about going back, when the past feels safer and more successful than the present, that's not always a good sign. It's complicated. It's messy. It's human. And here's the thing that really gets you. If you look at Kaley Cuoco's social media, if you see the photos of her with her daughter Matilda, with her fiancé Tom, with her animals, she looks happy. She smiles. She shares sweet moments. She seems like she's living a beautiful life. And maybe she is. Maybe she's found peace. Maybe she's in a healthier place than she's ever been. But maybe the truth is more complicated than a single photo can capture. Maybe happiness isn't a destination you arrive at once and stay forever. Maybe it's something you have to fight for every single day. Something that ebbs and flows. Something that coexists with pain and loss and struggle. Maybe the most honest thing we can say about Kaley Cuoco right now is that she's doing her best. She's surviving. She's trying. And sometimes that has to be enough. Let's talk about the industry itself for a moment. Because Kaley's story is also a story about how Hollywood treats women, especially women who became famous for playing a certain type of character. Penny was a beautiful girl, the fun girl, the accessible girl. She wasn't the genius. She wasn't the powerhouse. She was the heart. And while that made her beloved, it also typecast Kaley in ways that have been difficult to overcome. When The Flight Attendant came out, critics praised her for showing range, for proving she could do drama. But the fact that people were surprised, the fact that she had to prove herself, reveals the double standard. Male actors move seamlessly between comedy and drama, all the time without having to justify themselves. But women, especially women who play pretty, funny characters, have to work twice as hard to be taken seriously. And then there's the age factor. Kaley Cuoco is 38 years old as of 2025. In Hollywood years, especially for actresses, that's when roles start drying up. The ingenue parts are gone. The leading lady roles are harder to come by. You're too old to play the girl next door, but too young to play the matriarch. It's an awkward, frustrating in-between space where talented women are often overlooked. Kaley is fighting against that reality every day. She's producing her own content, creating her own opportunities, refusing to disappear just because the industry has decided she's aged out of certain roles. But that fight is exhausting. It takes a toll. And when projects get canceled, when shows don't get renewed, it's hard not to internalize that rejection, hard not to wonder if maybe the world has moved on from you. There's also the financial pressure that nobody talks about. Yes, Kaley Cuoco has a net worth estimated at around $110 million. That's an unfathomable amount of money to most people. But in Hollywood, money disappears fast. She owns properties. She maintains a ranch. She runs a production company. She has employees to pay, animals to care for. And with each canceled project, with each show that doesn't get picked up, the financial stability starts to feel less certain. Streaming platforms are cutting budgets, canceling shows after 1 or 2 seasons, making it harder for anyone to build sustainable careers. Even someone with Kaley's success and resources isn't immune to that instability. And what about her health? We've talked about the physical injury from a horseback riding accident, but what about the mental and emotional toll of everything she's been through? Depression isn't something you just get over. It's something you manage, something you live with. Kaley has been open about her struggles, which is commendable and important. But that openness also reveals how much she's carrying. She's been married 3 times by the time she's 38. She's been divorced twice. She's lost a father figure in John Ritter. She's nearly lost her leg. She's had projects canceled. She's admitted to denying her depression by overworking. These are significant traumas, and the cumulative effect of trauma is that it changes you. It shapes how you see the world, how you trust people, how you move through your life. Kaley is still standing, still working, still trying, but you have to wonder at what cost. What does it take out of a person to keep going when so much keeps going wrong? Let's circle back to her relationship with Tom Pelphrey, because this is such a central part of her current life. Tom is an accomplished actor in his own right. He's been open about his struggles with anxiety and depression. In some ways, they seem like a good match. 2 people who understand the pressures of the industry, who are both parents now, who are building a life together. They've shared that they're interested in working together on projects, which would be beautiful. But there's also a fragility to it. Kaley has said she would never get married again, and yet she's planning another wedding. Tom has never been married before, so this is new territory for him. They have a young daughter who is growing up in the spotlight, whether they want that or not. There's a lot of pressure on this relationship to work, a lot riding on it emotionally and practically. And when you look at Kaley's track record, when you see how quickly her previous relationships moved and then fell apart, you can't help but hope this time is different while also fearing it might not be. Here's another layer to the heartbreak. Kaley Cuoco is beloved. She has millions of fans who grew up watching her, who feel like they know her, who root for her. But that kind of love from strangers is also a burden. Every time she posts on social media, people comment. Every time a project is announced or canceled, people have opinions. Every time her personal life changes, people judge. She can't just be a person going through life's ups and downs. She has to be a public figure, a role model, a symbol. And when things go wrong, when projects fail or relationships end, it's not just her private pain. It's public fodder. It's content for articles and videos like this one. And while she's chosen this life, while she's benefited enormously from fame, that doesn't make the scrutiny any less exhausting or painful. What's particularly heartbreaking is seeing someone who gave so much joy to so many people struggling to find her own joy. For 12 years, Kaley Cuoco made us laugh. She brought light into our living rooms every week. She was part of our routines, our comfort watches, our happy place. And now, when we look at her life, we see someone who is trying so hard to find that same happiness for herself. She's working, she's loving, she's parenting, she's rescuing animals, she's building brands, she's trying to prove herself over and over again. But happiness keeps feeling just out of reach. Success keeps feeling temporary. Stability keeps slipping away. There's a scene in The Big Bang Theory where Penny talks about her failed acting career, about how she came to Los Angeles with dreams and watched them slowly fall apart. She talked about feeling like a failure, about wondering if she made the right choices. And in that moment, Kaley wasn't just playing a character. She was tapping into something real, something vulnerable. Because even though her career has been objectively successful, even though she's achieved things most actors only dream of, there's still that nagging feeling of what if? What if The Flight Attendant had continued? What if Based on a True Story had been a bigger hit? What if her marriages had worked out? What if she could escape the shadow of Penny and be seen for all the other things she's capable of? Those what-ifs can haunt you. And then there's the reality of being a working mother in Hollywood. Kaley has been incredibly honest about how difficult it is to balance her career with motherhood. She and Tom have both talked about struggling to manage their trajectories now that they have Matilda. On one hand, it's refreshing to hear celebrities be honest about the challenges instead of pretending everything is perfect. On the other hand, it's heartbreaking because it reveals how even with all their resources, all their help, all their money, they're still overwhelmed. If Kaley Cuoco, with $100 million and a supportive partner, is struggling, what does that say about the impossible standards we place on working mothers? What does it say about an industry that claims to value families but makes it nearly impossible to both a thriving career and a present parenting experience? There's also something deeply poignant about Kaley's animal rescue work in this context. Animals don't judge. They don't care if your show got canceled or if your marriage fell apart. They just love you. They need you. They're grateful for your care. In a world where so much of Kaley's life is about performance and perception, her animals are the place where she can just be. No cameras, no expectations, no pressure, just love. And maybe that's why she's so devoted to that work. Maybe that's where she finds a peace that eludes her everywhere else. Let's talk about the future, because that's what everyone wants to know. What's next for Kaley Cuoco? She has the Amazon series Vanished in production. She continues to voice Harley Quinn. She's running her production company. She's engaged to Tom Pelphrey and raising their daughter. She's building her pet care brand. On paper, she's busy, she's working, she's moving forward. But will any of it bring her the satisfaction and success she's searching for? Will any of it fill the void left by The Big Bang Theory? Will any of it prove to the world, and more importantly to herself, that she's more than just Penny? The truth is, we don't know. And maybe that's the most honest answer. Life doesn't have neat resolutions. Success doesn't follow a predictable path. Happiness isn't guaranteed just because you work hard or have talent or have money. Kaley Cuoco's story is still being written. And right now, it's a story of resilience in the face of disappointment, of hope despite heartbreak, of someone who keeps getting up even when life keeps knocking her down. That's not the fairy tale ending we all want for someone we care about. But it's real. It's human. It's the truth. When you look at Kaley Cuoco now, you see someone who has survived so much. Childhood stardom, the sudden loss of a mentor, a near amputation, 2 divorces, depression, project cancellations, industry rejection, the pressure of fame, the challenge of trying to reinvent yourself when the world wants to keep you in a box. And through all of that, she's still here. She's still working. She's still loving. She's still trying. That takes an incredible amount of strength. It also reveals an incredible amount of pain. So when we ask the question, remember Penny from The Big Bang Theory? This is her now. The answer is complicated. She's not the carefree girl who bounced into that apartment across the hall. She's a woman who has lived through more heartbreak and struggle than most people could imagine. She's a mother, a fiancée, a producer, an entrepreneur, an animal rescuer, an actress still fighting to prove herself. She's someone who has achieved massive success and still feels like she's falling short. She's someone who has everything and somehow still feels like something is missing. She's someone who makes us laugh and cry and root for her, even when we're not sure she's rooting for herself. And maybe that's what makes this story so heartbreaking. We want Kaley Cuoco to be happy. We want her to find peace. We want her to succeed on her own terms and feel fulfilled and loved and safe. We want a fairy tale for her because she gave us so many years of joy. But life doesn't work that way. Hollywood doesn't work that way. And Kaley, for all her strength and talent and beauty, is still just a person trying to figure out, just like the rest of us. The difference is she has to do it under a microscope with millions of people watching, commenting, judging. So yes, this is Kaley Cuoco now. And it's heartbreaking. Not because she's a failure. She's not. Not because her life is terrible. It's not. But because despite everything she's achieved, despite all the love she's given and received, she's still searching, still struggling, still fighting battles that most of us will never see. And that's the real tragedy of fame. You can have everything the world says should make you happy and still feel empty. You can be beloved by millions and still feel alone. You can smile for the cameras and still cry when they're turned off. If there's anything we can learn from Kaley's story, it's that success doesn't equal happiness. Fame doesn't equal fulfillment. Money doesn't equal peace. The things we think will save us, the big breaks and the perfect relationships and the public validation, they're not enough. What matters is how you treat yourself when things fall apart. What matters is whether you keep going even when you're exhausted. What matters is whether you let yourself be vulnerable enough to admit when you need help. And by those measures, Kaley Cuoco is doing remarkably well. She's surviving. She's honest. She's trying. And maybe that's the real strength we should celebrate, not the success, but the survival. So the next time you see Kaley Cuoco's name in a headline, or you watch an old episode of The Big Bang Theory and see Penny bouncing on the screen, remember this. Remember that behind that smile is a woman who has fought through unimaginable pain. Remember that behind that success is a person who has struggled with depression, heartbreak, and rejection. Remember that behind the fame is someone who is still trying to figure out who she is and what she wants and how to be happy. And maybe, just maybe, send some love her way. Not because she needs our pity. She doesn't. But because kindness matters. Support matters. And reminding someone that they're more than their worst moments or their biggest failures. That matters too. Kaley Cuoco is not a cautionary tale. She's not a tragedy. She's a survivor. She's a fighter. She's someone who has lived a full, complicated, messy, beautiful, heartbreaking life. And her story isn't over yet. There are more chapters to be written, more roles to play, more loves to experience, more challenges to overcome. And we'll be watching, hoping, rooting for her every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, she's not just Penny from The Big Bang Theory. She's Kaley Cuoco. And that's more than enough.